development. Today, courtesy of the Washington Post, we learned some of the White House records Donald Trump took to Mar-a-Lago were clearly marked classified. That helps explain why the National Archives this week asked the Justice Department to determine if Trump broke the law. We also learned this week the former president removed boxes of records from the West Wing, in some cases trying to tear them to shreds. In others, new reporting shows he flushed them down the toilet. The House Oversight Committee promises to investigate, and the January 6th committee has a keen interest too, as it looks for missing Trump phone logs and other records critical to its minute-by-minute timeline. We start our conversation this hour with Maggie Haberman of the New York Times. She's also the author of an important forthcoming book, Confidence Man, The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America. Maggie, grateful for your time today. There's a big picture issue here of another example of the Trump White House and the Trump as president going way outside the norms when it comes to records preservation, record sanctity. But the immediate issue is how much does this impact important investigations like the January 6th committee, right?
Right, John, and we don't know. I think it's important to make clear what we do know is that over many, many years, this president, there were people in his White House who tried to follow rules. There were people in his White House who tried to adhere to norms and standard practices and tried to get him to do that. He did his own thing. My colleague Annie Carney, while she was at Politico, broke the story about the fact years ago that he was ripping up documents, and that was a significant story. People would have to follow him around, taping them back up. This has come up, as we know, as the January 6th committee is looking through pieces of paper and documents. We don't know exactly what was in these boxes that went to Mar-a-Lago. We are all trying to find out. We don't know whether this could have or not related to January 6th, but I think that what has happened is there is an effort to try to, there's been a bunch of new pieces of paper that have come out related to what was taking place in the efforts for Trump to stay in power, and so that has raised all kinds of questions, but we don't really have answers to those questions yet.
Right, and again, you talk about sort of within the White House, some people trying to do it right, some people led by the then President of the United States doing it outside the norms. You share a nugget, it's in your reporting in the story in the newspaper today as well, from the important new book you're working on. I want to just read this. While he was president, staff in the White House residence periodically discovered wads of printed paper clogging a toilet, leading them to believe that Mr. Trump had attempted to flush documents. According to people familiar with the situation, he was known to do the same on foreign trips, the people said. The question is, and where does the reporting go? Is the president destroying things he doesn't want in the file, or is he just mad and he's destroying what's in his hand?
Right, and we just don't know, John. Again, I mean, the reporting that you just read is what is going to be in the book. Can't speak for every single foreign trip, but certainly some foreign trips that this happened on. So it wasn't strictly staff in the White House who had this experience directly in the residence. But we don't know. Not every single piece of paper is the same. Not every single piece of paper is something of consequence. It's always hard to tell with this former president, why exactly he's doing what he's doing. I think that the flip side of that is that what we saw on January 6th is that sometimes his motive doesn't actually matter, and what exactly he was looking for. He wanted to remain in power, and a bunch of people stormed the Capitol after that. And so I think that that's part of why you can't just say, who knows what this means, it doesn't really matter. But we don't know what these documents were. We don't know what was being, thrown in a toilet.
What we do know is more than a year after he left the White House, we're having a conversation we've had before in the sense that several different places, congressional committees, the Justice Department looking at a potential criminal referral from the National Archives. Was this law-breaking? What happened to the White House documents? The House Oversight Committee says it wants to explore that very question. Does it violate the Presidential Records Act? And you write today with your colleagues about the January 6th committee. The committee was also subpoenaed telecommunications companies for the personal cell phone records of a range of people in Mr. Trump's inner circle. It's unknown whether the committee has specifically demanded records for Mr. Trump's personal cell phone. So that's another piece of this. They were so outside the norms that you're trying to piece together Donald Trump's day on January 6th, and you can't do it the traditional way because he would say, hey, Dan, give me your cell phone. Hey, Mark, let me make the call on your cell phone. That's frustrating.
Yes, look, he was, there are presidents who have, periodically been known to grab somebody else's, phone while they were talking and say something into it. But generally speaking, most presidents, and, most presidents also existed in the pre-cell phone age. But since there have been cell phones, Donald Trump is the only president I know of who often used other people's phones to have conversations, according to multiple aides. This has always been, for people who worked in the White House, they have often said this was going to be a challenge for the committee in trying to get a full accounting of that day and his movements because this was just his practice.
Maggie, before you go, I want to give you a chance. There are some people out there who see this detail released from your new book about Trump flushing papers down the toilet, and they think, if they've essentially accused you of withholding this information, holding this information for a book. Not true. Please explain.
Sure, and John, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Look, I mean, I understand there's a lot of confusion for folks about how these processes work, why things go in a book or not in the newspaper, right away. To be clear, I did not know this was happening while he was president. I'm not known for, sitting on scoops if I have information. Number one. Number two, I found this out in the course of reporting for the book. Well after Trump had left the White House. I do have a new book. That book is not out for 8 months, and so I am trying to get this information out as fast as possible because I think it's relevant. Do I know that it is particularly meaningful in terms of what pieces of paper ended up where? We do not. I don't want to suggest that I know more than I do, right? But I did think this was relevant, and that's why now, and that's how I acquired the information. I would not want someone thinking that I knew this in real time because I didn't.
But right, this is an example here of you following your reporting instincts and making public what you do know at a time that this could be a piece of relevant information, not what some have suggested. Maggie Haberman is always grateful for your time and the important reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. With me in studio.